it's kind of acceptance and awareness, right? Because like people will deny how bad the situation is and lie to themselves so that they never reach acceptance. Welcome back to the Illuminated Path. This is episode 80. What are we talking about today?
I can't believe we're on episode 80.
You always make a funny face when I say the episode name. You're like episode 80 and your eyes just...
We're getting up there.
Yeah.
I feel like my updates are always just going to be like what week I'm on. I'm on 25. Oh my gosh, there is literally 15 weeks left. That is crazy.
Crazy.
Almost in third trimester. I can't even believe it. Yeah, I mean, we're recording this a little in advance, so I'm like really just hoping that the weather has been beautiful. So like future me, you're enjoying warm weather.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else you want to talk about?
No, I was just thinking I'm really excited to like keep working on this set. I think we got it like functional, but there's still like paint splatter all over our table. I want to get our neon sign back up. That thing is sweet.
Yeah.
All right.
So today we are, you didn't even we usually start with this. That's fine. We are on part 2. Normally you ask me what we're talking about first before we say
I dropped the ball on that one.
That's okay. We're on part 2 of Attitudes of Mindfulness. So if you didn't listen to part 1, that was episode 79. Highly recommend you check that out first. But this is really, I've taken a lot of this from the book Mindful Birthing by Nancy Bardacke, if I'm pronouncing that right. So in part 1, we really talked about what mindfulness is and different attitudes and things to really be aware of and mindful of when practicing mindfulness and trying to live a more mindful life.
Yeah.
So just to quickly reiterate from the last episode, mindfulness is the awareness that arises from paying attention on purpose in the present moment and non-judgmentally. And in part 1, we talked about the beginner's mind, non-judging, patience, and non-striving. So we have 4 more to go over today.
I think I also want to say like that idea of non-striving, right? We kind of talked about just where you are. I think there's a key component in there of acceptance of just like, this is where you are right now.
Yeah.
Should have said that in the other episode, but it's fine.
Hey, that's okay because number 2 talks a lot about acceptance. So we'll get into it.
Totally missed that.
A lot of them like overlap. So
spoiler alert.
It works. All right. Topic number 1 is trust as self-reliance. So having trust in yourselves. This is like really learning to listen to yourself and realizing you are the ultimate author of your own experience. It's like there's this weird transition, right, from becoming an adult. After you go to college, maybe you're an adult, you're deciding what your life is going to look like, and you don't necessarily have like that trust yet. And I mean, It can be even later in life, right? But that's just kind of a point in time for me that I can remember. And you're really looking to others for like help, guidance. And there's nothing wrong with help and guidance, but it's like, do you really know and like trust in what you want, what you desire, what you want to go after without outside people, your parents or your peers or whoever telling you?
Yeah. I mean, wow. I think about, just like to your point, right? Like when we're kids and then we're out of college and we got to like pick a career path. And I think I would say you and I are in a situation now where we really like focused on trading. Like we were like, this is it. This is how we provide for our family. But I think we only really were able to have that faith and that trust in it because we did have a marketing agency. We built it, totally designed our lives into consulting. And then we, designed other things. I did music and do music, but I had this big dream of releasing a song and I did that. And I think that what I'm trying to say is it's kind of like a muscle that you have to flex. And I think that for our point in our journeys, we were able to trust and believe in trading because we had practiced designing our lives around other things and had proven to ourselves that we can do it. And I think that's really important to stress and emphasize because people who have never trusted in themselves, they're not willing to take these leaps.
Right.
And there is no growth in that sense. So I think it's just a point to say, prove it to yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like, trusting your inner wisdom and knowing what path is right for you. When you're really practicing mindfulness, it's going to allow your capacity to grow, to trust yourself. So when you have like that inner strength and that inner confidence and self-reliance, like you know you can rely on yourself, it helps you to just take full responsibility for your own actions and your choices, and you will trust in yourself that you can handle whatever happens.
Yeah.
And again, like a lot of people don't necessarily have that time in life where they're like fully responsible for themselves.
Mm,
I had time where I did live by myself and I paid for everything in my house myself and I did everything myself. And I think that was an important part of my journey.
yeah.
But a lot of times people just, and there's nothing wrong with it, but like you just move in with a significant other and you never have that opportunity to just be by yourself at all. And that can kind of change the way that you grow in that trust in yourself because you do have that other person. So
Yeah.
it's just different, I
Yeah. I
guess.
think everybody's got a different journey and a different experience with self reliance and being self sufficient.
Yeah. Anything else on trust?
No, like I said, I think you got to do it. You got to do it and prove it to yourself in order to get better at it.
Yeah. One like Actually, I just thought of something quick. One like simple thing that I've talked about before is like being decisive is kind of a way to build trust in yourself, and you can
Mm,
like practice decisiveness as simple as like going to a restaurant and like being decisive about what you're going to choose on a menu.
yeah.
Because sometimes people be like, I don't know, what do you think? And it's like, no, actually, like take all of those choices to yourself and just like practice making decisions. And then you'll build that trust with yourself.
Yeah. I think about when I was just a hermit and I was just totally agoraphobic and doped up on meds. And um, part of the way I started getting out of that was forcing myself I would actually drive to the mall and I would go to PF Chang's at the mall and I would sit at the bar. And that was like me getting out of the house and like proving to myself that I could do it.
Mhm.
Um, and like obviously that's not the greatest example because I was drinking at the bar, but I think yeah, like you make the decision and then you have to follow it through. Like nothing changes if nothing changes.
Yeah. All right, next topic is acknowledgement, moving toward acceptance, what you were mentioning at the beginning.
Yeah.
So, acknowledgement and moving towards acceptance is really about bringing awareness to your moment to moment experiences without trying to change things or without trying to run away or deny the reality of the situation and what's happening. So, it doesn't mean you have to love everything that is happening in the moment,
Yeah.
but it is seeing a situation clearly for what it truly is and acknowledging that.
This one reminds me of losing weight and like when I was really heavy, getting off the meds, really wanted to try MMA and there was like that shattering moment of like really needing to accept where I was because I wasn't I mean I was on autopilot just coasting, just living with my parents and drinking there, but I had to have that moment of accepting like something needs to change and I really did not like where I was.
Hmm.
Um and I think that it's kind of acceptance and awareness, right? Because like people will deny how bad the situation is and lie to themselves so that they never reach acceptance.
Right. Or just kind of have like excuses as to why.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting to me that this is all like mindful birthing, but like so much of it just equates to life.
Exactly. That's why I thought this was so good. I was
It's,
like, we need to talk about this because, yeah,
yeah,
it's in the book, it goes deeper into, how it can relate to your birth experience and your labor and everything. But this is truly like,
it's like a really beautiful metaphor for life.
yeah. Um, So once you can really like see clearly, like you were saying, like you have that awareness, you're acknowledging, like, okay, this is like tough to accept the truth that like I'm responsible. I put myself in this situation or whatever it is, and you're not judging yourself. You're just like, this is the reality.
Yeah.
Then you can allow yourself to have more options. And you can see the situation for what it is. And it can be a starting point for change. It's kind of like that I'm done moment.
Yeah. Yeah. The idea of the I'm done. Yeah.
Like, this is what it is, and I'm done. I cannot accept this anymore. Um, well, you're accepting it, but you cannot accept that that's going to be your continued future.
Right.
So now I'm pivoting. I'm making the shift. I'm making the change.
I think it's kind of like the moment people realize the path they're on, like the direction you're heading in,
Yeah.
and accepting it. And that's usually the moment you decide it's not what you want for yourself.
And that's a lot of how, like, I didn't mention it in this one, but mindful versus mindless. When you're running on autopilot and you don't necessarily realize the path you were on, you've probably been living in a more mindless state,
Yeah.
because you're just repeating the same habits and actions every day, the same thoughts. So you're not being mindful and you're not seeing it as like, oh, wait, like this is the path I've been on. I need to like take a step back and really reassess.
Right. Yeah.
All right, number 3 is letting be. So when we want something really badly, we often like really hold on to it. Like we clench at like the result, right?
Mm,
Getting to that point and having such an attachment to it, to the way we wish things were, can just also create different challenges in our ability to get there and our ability to trust that we can get there, our ability to be able to shift and move the way things are going to move. Um, so again, this is about like we tend to avoid things that we don't like and we try to control everything. But when you do this and you're so like attached to an outcome or you're just like clenching onto something specific, it can really be a recipe for suffering.
yeah.
So the book really talks about like sometimes you have to just turn toward this difficult or unwanted situation and find a way to let it be. It really is like about, practicing acceptance and just being like, okay, this is what it is. That doesn't mean again that you're like, and I like it. I
Yeah.
like the way it is. You're not pretending, you're not practicing like toxic positivity or anything like that, but you're just letting it be as it is. Because the more that you are resisting the way things are, you're just going to continue to create more suffering.
Yeah.
And the book had this one that I've heard a ton. It's what we resist persists.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
So that one is talked about all the time when you're talking about like how you are always manifesting things in your life. And if you are so focused on the negative and so focused on what you don't want,
Yep.
you're going to create more of it
Hmm.
because that is what your focus is.
Where attention goes, energy flows.
Yeah, same thing.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, again, I think it's like perspective and your attention is a skill. And where you direct that plays a very important role in how things unravel. So, I think I've said this before, but in like ancient mysticism, it was understood like your superpower is your attention. Fun fact: Mark Zuckerberg, founder or CEO of Facebook,
Facebook. Hmm.
supposedly, I don't know if this is true, but I saw a couple articles on it and I thought it was an interesting thing. So fact check me, I don't care. Um, they call him when he is in the office and he's like working on something, they call it the Eye of Sauron. And I believe that's a Lord of the Rings reference. But the idea is he is so focused on one thing with just a laser focus, and that is all that matters, that he drives people nuts. That they're just in on this one thing. It is everything, and in that moment, that is what matters. But that is a very high performing skill.
Yeah.
So, just another way to articulate, like, your attention really matters. And when you are able to truly focus on one thing and do it and achieve it, you're in a whole different, you're on a whole different level.
Yeah. I mean, that just made me think about, people who are multitasking and trying to like
Yeah.
get all these things done. And multitasking is like the opposite of being mindful.
Yep. It's been debunked. You're not more efficient.
No.
You're really just taking longer to do everything.
Right. And I know it. Like it's reality. Like even like something like going to a studio to do yoga
Yep.
versus doing yoga at home. When you're in the studio, everything's put away. Your only sole focus is doing the yoga. Maybe your mind is going off a little bit, but like that is the only thing you have to do. But if you're doing yoga at home, you hear your dog going and you got to go let him out.
Sounds like
Something
a personal
we
experience.
experience a lot. Or your phone goes off and you're checking it,
Yep.
or you pause the video to do whatever. Like those are such different experiences of the
Yeah.
same thing. And it's like having those distractions versus being very mindful and being
Yeah.
very present. Like that is a really good example of mindfulness and being present.
Yeah. And I would also say setting yourself up to have that presence. Like when we drive to the yoga studio, we're there. We're not on our phones. That would be ridiculous in the middle of class. So it's like either you're someone who can treat yoga at home like you're in a class, or you're not. And that's fine because there's a lot more stimuli and things happening when you're at home. But having that presence, it'll change the experience entirely.
Yeah.
And I would say part of the reason we get so much out of yoga when we go to a class is because we don't have those distractions. But when our mind wanders there, we're more aware of it and we pull it back. Whereas when we do yoga at home, there's so many distractions. We often don't get to that point of being present because there's this distraction and that distraction, and my mind is wandering, and I don't catch my mind because of this distraction.
Yeah.
So I think knowing yourself and being able to set yourself up for success in what you do and being able to hold your attention is very important.
Mhm.
And again, if you're someone who struggles to hold your attention, that's being present and that's practicing meditation, among other things. But that is the core development of that skill, is being able to sit and be present and practice meditation.
Yeah. Definitely. Um all right, last one is kindness. Which I thought was an interesting one to go
Yeah.
along with mindfulness, but it makes sense. So it's just talking about like having kindness towards yourself and others in life, and just like allowing everything to be as it is and having that mentality and attitude of kindness. And it also is about being gentle and kind when you're redirecting your mind back to the present moment.
Yep.
Like you were just saying, if you're in a yoga class and you're finding yourself wander and your mind wander, you're being kind to yourself
Right.
when you're pulling yourself back. You're not judging yourself or criticizing yourself because I'm not paying attention. What is
Oh,
wrong with me?
we
Or
could do so much on that. Yeah. People who like talk to themselves and they're like, you idiot. Just no, don't talk to yourself like that.
yes,
Like mm, I'll cut it short, but everything carries a frequency. Don't talk to yourself like that.
yeah. Just be gentle, be non-judging, and it is what it is. Like it happened, okay, and now I want to shift it and change it back. So be kind to yourself in that.
Yeah, like the only thing you can do when you catch it is gently bring yourself back. It is going to do far more harm than good if you are bullying yourself because of that moment.
Right.
Bring it back, be gentle, be kind.
Yeah. And then continuing to, observe your mind and your thoughts and any unkind thoughts that you have about yourself, and others, and it's interrupting the cycle.
Yep.
Mindfulness is about noticing these and interrupting it and being like, nope, like
Yeah.
I'm gonna let that thought pass and come back to the present. That's not important. That's not, that's not true. Whatever it is, it's like you have to catch those and interrupt them because you have to let yourself know like that's not a true thought, or that's not something I'm going to act on or believe or take on into my life.
Yeah, and I think that one's so important because it's the understanding again, right? Meditation is sitting on the side of the road and observing the cars, right? Whereas if you're so focused on, if you're sitting there on the side of the road, let's just go with this example, and you're saying, I don't want to see a red car. I don't want to see a red car. You're going to see a lot of red cars. And part of that is, yes, the reality that there's red cars on the road, but part of it is also you manifesting and creating that because you're now in that place while more red cars come. And that's a whole discussion of quantum frequencies, but you're creating that.
Right. But
It,
you're also focusing on it. So like you're
right,
going to notice it more
right,
if you're like focusing on it, thinking about it. Whereas if you were just sitting there watching them pass by, you probably wouldn't notice what color they were.
exactly. So that is why the better approach is I want to see a yellow car. I'm going to see a yellow car. I see a yellow car, right? Then you'll probably still notice red cars. And this is the distinction that we don't talk about in meditation. You're still going to notice what you don't want to see, but the difference is what you're focusing on. You have to be able to interrupt that cycle and say, I don't want to look at the red cars. I want to look at the yellow cars. So that was a whole example on cars, but I hope that made sense and got through. Point being, you focus on what makes sense and what feels good to you. If you're so focused on what you don't want, you're creating that. That's where your attention is, and that's where you're going to live.
Yeah. I think it was a good example.
Thanks. Hopefully it made sense.
It does, at least to me. And then the last point was really just like acknowledging everything with kindness and bringing your attention back over and over and over and over, like
Mm.
times a million. This is life. Like your attention is always going to be interrupted by a million things every single day.
That too. I think people think if you're present or have good attention, it just never gets broken. That's not what it means.
No, this is a daily practice.
It's a daily practice and it's a skill to be able to pull yourself back to the present moment or what you need to do. Another great example is I'm in the gym or like anytime you work out, I'll go to the gym and see people on their phone. I haven't been in the gym in a while, but I've been working out at home. But to see people on their phone, and it's like then they start scrolling and like they get distracted. And so it's like I've gotten into a habit with a lot of things, but especially lifting weights is back to the present moment. Like this is the task at hand. And
Yeah.
again, like that's a skill set that you develop. It doesn't mean I'm lifting weights, so that's all I'm doing and I'm not going to get distracted at all. But I have the practice of being able to pull myself back to it gently and kindly.
Yeah. Noticing when it's happening so that you can do that.
Right.
It's gonna, again, like it's gonna continue to happen. This is a daily thing that you will always have to do. So the more you practice it, the easier you'll be able to catch it and bring yourself back. Um,
Yeah.
but you're never just gonna be like, okay, I'm now this like mindful being and I never get distracted and I'm never out of
Right.
the present moment.
Like that's not what being a mindful being means. I think there's a big disconnect between the the understanding and what people think it is and like what the actual practice looks like in reality.
Yeah. And I think that's everything that I have.
All right. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.